You ever sit next to someone who smiles with their mouth, but something in your gut says something's off? They laugh, they're polite, they're supportive on paper, but behind the warmth, there's cold, like standing next to a heater that doesn't give off any real heat. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But sometimes, it's not your own shadow directing you. It's someone else's, projected, hidden, weaponized, and you feel it, not in your mind, in your body, a tension in the room, a small discomfort, a weird sense after your success, that low-key dig in a joke, that one moment their face freezes, when they think you're not looking. See, hate doesn't always scream. Most of the time, it smiles. Because the people who truly despise you, they know how to play nice. They've been practicing it for years. But no mask is perfect, and if you watch closely them with presence, not paranoia, you'll start to see the cracks. This isn't about suspicion, it's about survival. Because when someone is smiling at you on the surface, but rooting for your downfall underneath, you need to know. Let's talk about the first unmistakable pattern. They joke, but you feel the sting. You share a dream. They respond with a smirk. "Oh, wow, aiming high, huh?" You get a win. They go, "Well, don't get cocky." You try to speak from the heart. They cut you down, wrapped in a "just kidding." And when you call it out, they say, "Relax, I was joking. Don't be so sensitive. You just don't get humor." But you do, you get it just fine. What they're doing isn't humor, it's emotional shrapnel. See, Jung talked about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, so we cast them onto others. Someone who can't accept their own fear of failure might attack your ambition. Someone drowning in insecurity might mock your confidence. They don't even know they're doing it, but their shadow does. Ever had a friend who just forgets to tell you things? Doesn't forward the opportunity, gives you the wrong address, accidentally skips you in a group invite, forgets to mention you when it matters? It seems small, innocent, but it adds up. They always have an excuse, always an apology, but deep down you know, if it keeps happening, it's not a mistake, it's a message. Jung believed that when someone can't handle their own lack of success, they will unconsciously block others from rising. Not because they're evil, because your light triggers their darkness, and rather than own their shadow, they project it into your path, like a trap. You share something good, they match it. You're proud of a win, they one-up it. You feel seen, they feel threatened. Suddenly, every conversation turns into a scoreboard. "Oh, you did that? I did something even better." It's subtle, it's non-hostile, but it's always there. Because they don't want to celebrate you, they want to outshine you. Why? Because your progress reminds them of where they're stuck, and rather than ask, "What am I not doing?" they ask, "How can I dim you?" That's the thing about people carrying shame. They can't clap for others. Because every applause sounds like an insult. Jung once said that people often hate in others what they refuse to face in themselves. So when someone gets weird around your growth, believe them. They're supportive, they care, they want the best for you, but you feel nothing real behind it. When things are hard, they disappear. When things go well, they get weird. And when you share a moment of real joy, their smile looks forced, their tone flat, their praise hollow. You ask for help, they're too busy. They downplay your struggle. They offer just enough to look good, but never enough to make a difference. You think maybe you're imagining it, but you're not. Because real care isn't that inconsistent. Jung would call this dissociation of the ego, a defense mechanism that keeps people from connecting authentically. Why? Because they're scared of vulnerability, of envy, of your light. So they keep you close, but never seen. Sometimes hostility doesn't sound like anger. It sounds like a joke, like a suggestion, like a small delay, a forgotten message, a lukewarm congrats. It's not always loud. Sometimes it smiles. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because we're taught to look for enemies in conflict, not in compliments. But what if I told you that some of the most damaging people in your life are the ones who never raise their voice? Let's talk about quiet sabotage. Not the obvious kind, where someone openly undermines you. I mean the subtle version. The friend who forgets to forward that key opportunity. The colleague who accidentally gives you wrong info. The family member who always introduces just a seed of doubt. Each incident, small, easy to brush off, but add them up, and they start to sound like a pattern. This is the trap of quiet sabotage. It hides behind coincidence, behind "I didn't mean to," behind "you're overreacting." But deep down, you feel it. You feel how the energy shifts when you succeed. You feel how someone's tone sharpens, even if their words don't. You feel how the air goes cold when you speak from the heart. That's not your imagination. That's your intuition catching what your mind has been trained to dismiss. And it gets worse when they pretend to be proud of you. Fake celebration. It's an art. They smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. They say, "That's amazing," but change the subject right after. They give you praise, but only in private. Why? Because your success threatens their identity. And instead of confronting that, they act supportive, all while emotionally detaching from your growth. That's what Jung called emotional dissociation. When someone disconnects from their own feelings, they cannot be present for yours, so they cover it with politeness. But behind that smile, there's discomfort, and behind that discomfort, envy, comparison, inadequacy. And here's the most chilling part. They don't even know they're doing it, because the shadow doesn't announce itself. It leaks out in sarcasm, neglect, and lukewarm support. And if you're not paying attention, you'll internalize it. You'll start questioning your wins. You'll start shrinking your light. You'll start apologizing for being seen, just to make someone else feel more comfortable in their discomfort. Let me be clear. Someone who truly loves you doesn't flinch when you rise. They don't compete. They don't minimize. They don't disappear when it's your time to shine. They celebrate you without delay, without comparison, without restraint. So if you feel someone pulling away, not when you fail, but when you succeed, pay attention. That's not indifference, that's shadow. And that shadow sees you as a threat. Let's go deeper. Because the manipulation doesn't always stop there. Sometimes they offer you help, but that help comes with strings. It looks like guidance, but it feels like control. They advise you in a way that makes you doubt your own decisions. They offer support that makes you feel small. They speak like mentors, but act like puppeteers. This isn't care. This is control disguised as concern. Jung taught that when someone fears their own chaos, they try to organize other people's lives. They don't trust themselves, so they make your path their project. It sounds like, "Are you sure that's a good idea? I just don't want to see you get hurt. You always do this. Why don't you listen to me for once?" These comments don't come from love. They come from fear. Fear of losing relevance. Fear of your independence. Fear that if you grow without them, they'll be left behind. And instead of facing that fear, they manipulate you under the banner of love. So here's a hard truth. Anyone who tries to make you doubt yourself every time you step into power is not protecting you. They're protecting their illusion of control, and the moment you recognize that, you stop asking them for permission, you stop apologizing for trusting your gut, and you stop confusing manipulation with mentorship, because real support doesn't limit your freedom, it expands it. Let's talk about something quieter than words and louder than truth. The way someone looks at you, the pause before they speak, the moment they flinch when you share joy. Most people think betrayal comes with knives, but often it comes with eye contact that doesn't hold. Carl Jung believed that what we repress always returns, and the body is the first place it shows up. So when someone secretly resents you, they can say all the right things. But their body? It never lies. Watch their micro-reactions. Do they tense up when you speak about your success? Do they blink too long, breathe too sharp, tilt their head like they're pretending to listen? These are not accidents. These are cracks in the mask, because even the best liars can't lie with their muscles. And your nervous system knows it. That's why your chest tightens around them, why you laugh but don't feel safe, why your energy drains, even after short conversations. That's not social fatigue. That's your intuition screaming. You see, real connection regulates your nervous system. Fake connection aggravates it. You don't have to explain why you feel drained. Your body already knows, and it's trying to protect you. But here's where things get dangerous. Because you were taught to override that instinct, taught to be polite, taught to not be paranoid, taught to give people the benefit of the doubt, even when your soul is shaking. So you ignore the tension, you excuse the snide comments, you rationalize the subtle digs as just their way, and little by little, you start questioning yourself. Not because you're wrong, but because someone else's comfort has always been more important than your clarity. But clarity matters, and nowhere is that more true than when people talk about you, behind your back. Let's talk about gossip. You want to know who secretly resents you? Listen to what they say when you're not in the room. If someone always has stories about others, always knows the inside scoop, always sounds just a little too entertained by someone else's downfall, that's not personality, that's projection. Jung warned that people who gossip are often expressing their own repressed shadow, their own insecurities, failures, and fears, masquerading as concern. They don't talk about you to understand you, they talk about you to control how others see you. It's not curiosity, it's image management, and the more you trust them with your truth, the more material you give them to twist. So protect your peace, keep your sacred things sacred. If someone constantly criticizes others to you, they will one day criticize you to others. It's not personal, it's a pattern. Because people like that don't need a reason to betray trust. They just need a moment of envy and the right audience. And when it happens, when you hear your name dragged from mouths you fed, you'll feel the familiar wound of betrayal. But remember, their words don't define you. Their gossip is a mirror of their own fracture. Let your actions speak louder than their speculation. Let your peace be your proof. You don't have to defend yourself in rooms you never walked into. Your integrity echoes. And those who know your heart, they'll hear it, even through the noise. Still, the hardest part? When the one who secretly resents you pretends to love you. That's when the pain cuts deepest. Because they don't hate you in public. They love you, strategically. They say just enough nice things to confuse you, to keep you questioning your gut, to keep you explaining away your discomfort. They create emotional tension on purpose, so you'll keep working harder for their approval. It's not love, it's emotional control, so if you ever feel like you need to earn someone's kindness, you don't. You never did. You were just dealing with someone who needed you to stay uncertain, because your doubt kept them safe. But not anymore. Now you see it. Now you trust your body, not just their tone. And now, you stop explaining your energy. You start honoring it. Sometimes hate doesn't sound like "I hate you." It sounds like, "I'm just looking out for you. I know what's best. I'm only saying this because I care." But what if I told you, not every "I care" is pure, not every "I support you" is real. Sometimes love is just controlled, wearing makeup. Carl Jung said that control often comes from those who feel out of control internally. And the easiest way to distract from their chaos is to micromanage yours. So when someone constantly questions your decisions, second guesses your moves, or gives you advice that makes you feel small, they're not mentoring you. They're manipulating your confidence. They don't want what's best for you. They want what feels safe for them. See, real care empowers. It lifts, encourages, makes you feel more like yourself. But false care, it creates doubt. It clips your wings while calling it protection. It keeps you close by keeping you unsure. They'll say things like, "Are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe you should wait. I just don't want you to get hurt." But it's not about your safety. It's about their comfort. Because your growth makes them anxious. Your confidence exposes their insecurities. And the more you rise, the more they fear being left behind. So they shrink your spirit before it flies. And when you try to set boundaries, they flip the script. Now you're ungrateful. You're too sensitive. You can't take a joke. This is not a healthy relationship dynamic. It's emotional gaslighting wrapped in faux affection. Jung would say, these people haven't met their own shadow, so they try to manage yours. And they do it with a smile, but deep down, they resent your light. Not because you did something wrong, but because you reflect a version of them they gave up on. And that makes them uncomfortable. So instead of healing themselves, they try to shrink you. Because if they can keep you doubting yourself, they never have to face what they've lost in themselves. But here's your job. Stop mistaking control for love. Stop confusing comfort with connection. And stop apologizing for growing. Because the people who truly love you, they won't feel threatened by your wings. They'll help you fly. So if someone makes you feel like your success is a burden, like your confidence is arrogance, like your dreams are too much, that's not your person. That's a projection. And you don't owe it your energy. You don't need to dim your truth to make someone else feel less insecure. Because your light, it's not too bright. They just haven't opened their eyes. Let me ask you something hard. When was the last time someone really celebrated you? Not tolerated, not gave you a quiet nod, but celebrated. Eyes bright, voice warm, fully present. No competition, no passive jabs, no subtle shift in tone the moment your joy got too big. If you can't remember, that's your answer. You've been performing for people who only clap when you're small. You've been shrinking to fit into someone else's comfort zone. But real connection doesn't ask you to shrink. It asks you to expand. And it doesn't fear your shine. It stands beside it. Carl Jung said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there is no love." So the next time someone says, "I care about you," ask yourself this: do I feel more free or more afraid? Do I feel empowered or smaller? Do I feel safe to grow or expected to stay the same? Because that's the difference between real love and emotional control. And when you can see that difference, when your eyes finally open, you stop needing validation from people who only loved your limits. And you start walking toward those who love your expansion. Absolutely. Sometimes enemies don't scream. They don't attack. They smile. You share good news, and they say, "Oh, that's great." But their eyes don't light up. Their voice stays flat. Their energy, empty, cold. You open up. You speak about your pain, your doubts, your wins. They listen, but not to understand, to remember. Have you felt it? That strange heaviness after a conversation? Like someone walked into your inner world and quietly rearranged the furniture. You walk away feeling smaller, like you shared too much, trusted too easily, like a piece of you was taken without permission. Carl Jung warned us, a man is never more dangerous than when he is convinced his shadow doesn't exist. The threat isn't open hatred, that's easy to spot. The real danger is closeness without sincerity. So how do you protect yourself? Start with this: trust the discomfort. When someone's energy doesn't match their words, don't ignore it. That dissonance is a message. Your nervous system speaks before your mind can explain. Listen. Second, set hard, visible boundaries, not subtle hints, not polite avoidance, direct lines. Say, "I don't joke like that. That comment crossed a line. I'm not interested in competing with you." When you speak clearly, manipulators get uncomfortable because they feed on gray zones, not truth. If they dismiss your boundary, laugh it off, or flip it back on you, you just got your answer. Third, don't explain your worth. The moment you try to prove your success, your growth, your right to take up space, you're already giving them power. Someone who respects you won't need convincing. Someone who secretly envies you never wanted the truth. They wanted control. Stop playing their game. Fourth, withdraw your access. You don't owe them your wins. You don't owe them your pain. If someone has repeatedly shown you that they don't celebrate you, stop inviting them into moments that matter. Limit your exposure. Stop feeding their mask. Let them wonder why the door quietly cleaved. That's all the explanation they'll need. Fifth, strengthen your self-worth. Because the more you own who you are, the less vulnerable you become to hidden attacks. They only have power where you still doubt yourself. So work where it hurts. Own what you've earned. Let your confidence become immune to their silence. And finally, choose a new environment. Ask yourself, why do you keep people around who drain you? Because it's familiar? Because you're afraid of being alone? You don't need many. You just need real ones. People who smile with their eyes. People who don't compete when you win. People who don't disappear when you struggle. Let go of the rest. Here's the brutal truth. People who secretly hate you don't change. They just get better at hiding it. So stop hoping for their transformation and start protecting your peace. Because love shouldn't come with tension. Friendship shouldn't feel like defense. And connection shouldn't leave you doubting your worth. Pay attention to how you feel after people leave. That's not mood, that's data. And you deserve to feel safe, even in silence.